from the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Happy Thursday, everyone. The last day for the month of September, the last day of the third quarter, September 30th, 2021. Good morning. Welcome. We're live right here on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube with the CyberHub podcast. Kicking off tomorrow, National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which means we all get to hear about how important cyber is from everyone who is trying to sell you something on security, or it's the one time a year where CISOs, some engage with the team on security as well. That all kicks off tomorrow, and we'll be here live at 11 a.m. with a special. Joining me will be the awesome James McQuiggan. Know before him and I will be doing kind of an AMA. If you've not subscribed to the podcast, please make sure to do so right now. Shout out to our supporters, the TiVo Networks and Know Before, for their support of the program. Let's get some shout outs going on from Chris, who's saying good morning from South Florida. Good morning to Brent. Shalom to Vladimir. And good morning to McQuiggan, who will be with me tomorrow right here on the show. We've got a very, very busy show today, so let's not waste any more time. It's coffee cup cheers times, folks. Whatever you're drinking, let us know. Black Rifle. I know McQuiggan's probably having his Tim Hortons this morning. I've got my Illy Extra Bold Espresso Roast, which is absolutely magnificent, and my Cubs mug, because you know how we do it. So coffee cup cheers, folks. All right, let's get right into what's going on in security, because it is a busy time. But before we do that, good morning to David, who's also joining us here. So the Tomiris Backdoor has been found linked to the threat actors behind the SolarWinds attack. Security researchers on Wednesday disclosed a previously undocumented backdoor, likely designed and developed by the Nublium Advanced Persistent Threat behind last year's SolarWinds supply chain attack, joining the threat actors' ever-expanding arsenal of tools. The Moscow headquarter firm Kaspersky codenamed the malware Tomiris, calling out its similarities with another second-stage malware used during the campaign Sun Shuttle, aka Goldmax, targeting the Orion platform. Nublium is also known by the monikers of UNC 2452, SolarStorm. I'm done. One name. I say it every week. Why is it so hard? Give me one name. Please, one name. While supply chain attacks were already a documented attack vector leveraged by a number of APT actors, this specific campaign stood out due to the extreme carefulness of the attackers and the high-profile nature of their victims, according to Kaspersky. Evidence gathered so far indicates that they spent 6 months inside Orion's IT network to perfect their attack and make sure that their tampering of the build chain wouldn't cause any adverse effects. They were essentially doing DevSecOps on their DevOps and making sure that all the backdoors never got picked up by any of the reviews. This is significant, folks. Microsoft, when they detailed Sun Shuttle in March of 2021, described the strain as a Golang-based malware that acts as a command and control backdoor established in a secure connection with an attacker-controlled server to fetch and execute arbitrary commands on the compromised machine, as well as exfiltrate files from the system to the server. So you can see here kind of the timeline of Sunburst, and everything kind of started in August of 19. With the first attempt being in September and kind of moving so forth. The Tomiris Backdoor, which was found by Kaspersky in June of this year, from samples dating back to February, is also written in Golang and deployed in a successful DNS hijacking attack, during which targets attempting to access the login page of a corporate email service were redirected to a fraudulent domain set up with a lookalike interface designed to trick visitors into downloading the malware under the guise of a security update. So again, the sophistication of this is significant. The attacks are believed to have mounted against several government organizations in an unnamed CIS member state. CIS are former USSR nations. So you can think of like Ukraine, Estonia, Latvia, Georgia, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, etc. The main purpose of the backdoor was to establish a foothold in the attack system and to download other malicious components. This isn't the first time This is not the first time that overlaps have been discovered between different tools put to use by the threat actor. Yesterday, we talked about Foggy Web as well, and now this one. And I said it, go back, listen to when SolarWinds broke, when we were doing the practitioner brief in December and January, February and March of last year. I said the true impact of this is going to take a little bit of time, and now we're seeing it. All these different back doors, all these different things that are going on is really, really significant, and they are a direct threat on your organization. There are ways to mitigate this, including adding more detection software, training your SOC team and your frontline employees that are dealing with this technology to recognize the specific TTPs and IOCs of these backdoors and the specific movement. Mapping it to MITRE could also help, especially MITRE Defend. Using a little bit of deception could be very, very effective in situations like these, where they're taking advantage of 0 days and backdoors. You can essentially plant some deception in there in order to see if someone actually gets access, and then track that, and lo and behold, there you go. Before we do that, though, let's continue. Some people are drinking the Lavazza extra bold roast. I think that is Vladimir. Morning to the awesome Matt Lee. Morning to David B. And good morning to Bob, all here with us today. We'll move to another story, our second story of the day, which is the Facebook open source tool to find Android app security flaws. Facebook today open sourced the static analysis tool that software and security engineers use internally to find potentially dangerous security and privacy flaws in the company's Android and Java application. It's been dubbed Mariana Trench and can analyze large code bases of tens of millions of lines of code to spot vulnerabilities before they're introduced in the code base. Facebook itself revealed that its engineers found more than 50% of all security bugs across the company's app using automated tools similar to Mariana Trench. Mariana Trench works by analyzing the information flow from sources, user-sensitive data such as password locations or syncs. It's specifically designed to automatically discover such issues, which in most cases could lead to severe privacy and security bugs. So this has now been open sourced, folks. You can actually get your hands on it and test it out on your Android and Java applications as well. This is the third open source analysis tool that goes out. And again, this is for the betterment of the community, so very effective. I don't always like to praise Facebook because I have a long-standing list of issues with them, but this is a good move for the security community and for organizations who may not have the resources to be able to do this. Now they can with this open source tool, so this is great. CISA also released a tool to help organizations fend off insider threat risk. This goes at the back end of Logbit 2.0. Logbit 2.0 in their relaunch said, we're no longer doing phishing. We're essentially going to offer insiders, disgruntled insiders within the company, $1 million to get us access to the organization and allow us to download the malware. And now CISA has released a new tool that allows private and public sector organizations to assess their vulnerability to insider threats and devise their own defense plan against such risks. You can see more about it on the CISA page. If you go to CISA.gov/publication/insider threat mitigation resources, and that is linked in the show notes, you can see more about it. There's a bunch of videos here that discuss this. There's also a PDF and a bunch of tools on here for you to look at, especially the insider threat mitigation program. There's a whole fact sheet on it and so forth. Great tools by CISA to help navigate the muddy waters of insider threat. So go check that out. Really, really significant. So we'll move on to another story where a Turkish national has been charged for a DDoS attack on the U.S. company. The Northern District Court of Illinois has indicted a Turkish national for launching a distributed denial of service attack against a hospitality company headquartered in the United States. The man, Izzat Murat Ozek, who is 32, alleged to use the WireX botnet, which consists mainly of compromised Android devices, to orchestrate a DDoS attack targeting the victim's company's website, thus preventing users from completing hotel booking. The attack took place in August of 2017. The company, which remained unnamed, is headquartered in Chicago and manages and franchises luxury and business hotels, resorts, and vacation properties. The DDoS attack that Izzat Merk Ozak is responsible for, the indictment reveals, caused damages to multiple computers aggregating at least $5,000 in value. So, again, identifying and actually getting an indictment. We'll see what ends up with this. If found guilty, he could face up to 10 years in federal prison. And finally, we'll go to China. So the China cyberspace watchdog, we've had a lot of issues, and I, as James, have several issues with China. I do, with the Chinese government, not necessarily the Chinese people. I've got plenty of friends in mainland China. However, a now new recommendation and new essentially rule to start purifying the online world in China is causing a bit of heads to turn. The rule focuses on tech companies' recommendation algorithms and include, among other things, the requirement that tech companies sign up for a new registration system and subject themselves to review process to guard against what they call ideological risks. This goes on to say that the Cyberspace Administration of China said in a written statement that in order to standardize Internet Information Service algorithm recommendation activities, safeguard national security and social public interest, and promote the healthy development of Internet Information Services, now algorithms are going to need to be registered with the government. The watchdog said it is seeking to standardize algorithm recommendation activities in order to, among other things, promote socialist core values. Among the raft of new requirements, service providers will have to provide users the ability to select, modify, or delete user tags used for algorithm recommendation services. There's not much around this at the moment in China. Obviously, China's been very active this year with the encryption law that they tried to pass that eventually couldn't be enforced. Additionally, they've passed the security researcher where they have to report it to the Chinese government before they can report it to the company and so forth. They're not allowed to sell it and disclose it anywhere else. The one thing that's concerning of this is this pledge that was signed. So the China Association of Performing Arts called more than a dozen social media platforms together to discuss cleaning up what government officials have called the online chaos. The tech giants included WeChat, TikTok, Tencent Video, Weibo, which is the Chinese micro-blogging site, and many others to promote healthy and upright content. The one thing that's a concern is free internet. If these companies sign up and sign on to something like that, does that same technology get used abroad as well? Some questions to be asking if you use any of these Chinese platforms or any other company that works in China that decides to bend a knee to these types of rules. They can cause significant challenges come to us because we could be subjugated to this, even though we're not Chinese nationals. That's it for our practitioner brief here today, folks. Tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be right here with James McQuiggan to kick off the National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. A new CISO Talk podcast just dropped this morning. Go check out Brian Jack, the CISO over at KnowBe4. We talk about higher standards for CISOs at security companies than those at actual firms. So check it out. A great episode with Brian Jack on the CISO Talk podcast. Go subscribe there. Until tomorrow, folks, thank you all for tuning in and watching today's show. And stay cyber safe. Cheers, and see you folks soon.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.